Right. So what we'll do, I will first of all tell you the pattern, how the sort of shape of this will take. Okay, so you know what to expect. It might be, but this is the plan. First of all, I'm going to ask you to tell me, just describe to me, not in very much detail. We want a summary really of it because this hour will be spent going into all the details. Okay, so just so we know exactly what we're working with. Then I'm going to ask you to sort of give me a little view of the dog's environment, like I'd come to see you. And then I'm going to ask you loads of questions. And it is very much like a jigsaw puzzle, really. I want to try to get to understand Wilbur as much as I possibly can. Okay?
Yeah.
So the first thing is, I'll stop you if you're going into too much detail, but give us a broad outline, okay?
I was living with my current husband at the time in November, and we had a opportunity to rehome a rescue that wasn't chipped or anybody had registered anywhere. So it was quite an easy process really, but it was a snap decision because he's a very cute dog and we were told by his foster people that he would go. So anyway, his main problem at the time was he attached very hard and fast to Mark, and whenever Mark would be out of sight or leave the property, Wilbur would go straight into high anxiety / panic very quickly, and that just didn't change until we got some sort of intervention at the time. We did some desensitization training where you kind of repeatedly go away and maybe hide up the staircase for 2 seconds and come back. And we included our other dog at the time, who was much more able to be honest.
You have another?
No, well, we've split up now, so I've taken Wilbur, who belongs to me. Yeah. Okay. But our established dog at the time, when you're trying to do training with one dog, you have to involve the other, unless in the garden, because they want the treats. So, but I think he was able to, mimic and.
So don't go into quite so much detail. Yeah. So far, what we're saying is that he is finding it hard to be separated from.
Yeah.
Very long. So we're talking about separation issues, and we'll certainly go into the detail. That was one thing, and there was the other thing. He's very good with other dogs, isn't it? There was another thing that you mentioned.
Well then.
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay.
Yeah, separation is the
it'll come out anyway.
Key thing. Yeah.
With my questions will get it to the bottom. What I want from this bit really is, so we have a goal, and so we know what our goal is. For you to be able to leave him for reasonable lengths of time without him being distressed, without him being in panic. Do you know anything about his start in life?
Very little. He was in the street homeless community. I don't know where he's from in terms of where he was bred. His age is about 18 months. Two independent vets said 10 months in a year, just based on what they assess. And
that is interesting though, Paul, because if he was with homeless people, it does basically means he's with them 24/7, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think he was passed around a few times. So the person who had him before, the foster people who then passed him on to us, he was only with him 24 hours. So I don't know how much he'd been passed around, but I do think that has been a factor.
You can guess that he probably feels fairly insecure, and he's actually never been prepared for being left alone. So
no.
There we go.
And I think one thing I do know though is his toileting was not present at all. So yeah, he was going inside anywhere. We've conquered that now.
How long
He's doing really well.
For?
6 months. I mean, we conquered it quite quickly, although old habits die hard, as they say. So yeah, but it improved, kind of plateaued and then improved again. So yeah, he's good at. He just goes outside now, tells me. So.
It took a bit before, of course, he was living outside, probably, wasn't he? So.
Well, I don't know, but don't know for certain exactly where he was, because the mention of a crack den came in, but it's sketchy detail.
Anyway, you've got what you want and what you've got. I mean,
yeah.
it makes little difference really in what we actually do, but it is interesting. Okay, so the next thing is, let's have a little description of his environment. Do you live in a house, a flat, or what's the place to live in?
So we were living in a house, but in February I left, but we have a second property which I'm buying out in Edinburgh. It's a tenement flat. It's 2 bedrooms. It's reasonably.
So this is where you're living now.
Yeah.
Tenement with 2 bedrooms. Yes. Okay.
Wilbur is familiar with the environment because he's been here before when we used to come up, and it's on the first floor, so just one flight to go up and down. It's got a communal backyard that only me and another neighbour use. It's quite big, and he knows that's toilet. And sniffing, so he's fine with that.
And you can't see passing people go past and this sort of stuff because you're up on an apart.
He could if he worked out that if he sat at the window long enough, but he hasn't. My other dog would have worked out straight away, but he hasn't, so I'm just letting that be.
He doesn't sound like he's got guarding tendencies or anything like that.
Oh no, he does, because with tenements, they're quite bangy in terms of the communal, the staircase and other people, and the communal door, the soundproofing isn't great, so he does get guard or bar.
Key, because when you're working on leaving him, it's essential he feels safe.
Yeah.
And so if he's just about to settle and something bangs and he can't cope with that, then it's going to undo your good work. So this is one example of the sort of things we need dealing on, rather than just going in head on to separation and just parting from him, going upstairs and things. We need to get and first of all is doing everything we can get him to feel safe. All right. Okay, right, now the first question, weird question I'm going to ask you, I've got to start somewhere, and the idea is to get from you things you might not have thought of telling me. So right, okay, so let's imagine it's bedtime. You perhaps are watching television somewhere or sitting down somewhere comfortably, are you?
Yes, he's usually on the floor.
That's what I was going to ask you. Where is Wilbur?
Oh, usually on the floor. That's where he prefers. He occasionally comes up on the sofa. He doesn't stay long.
When you were with, it was Mark, wasn't it? When you were with Mark and you practically sitting together, where would Wilbur have gone then?
So we were a lot more permissive in terms of where the dogs could be, but really they would be on the floor a lot. Because we did have a little bit of resource guarding with Wilbur with our other dog, but we quashed that straight away, just in terms of the advice Angela gave us. Establish dog first if you're going to do that, or no dogs at all on the sofa. So we decided, and that worked really well.
That's
Wilbur
really
responded.
sensible. Yeah, sure. Do you live in Edinburgh now? Is that where you're moving to?
So yeah, I'm in Edinburgh now. So I've actually we've bought the flat 2 years ago and visited, but I've moved in nearly 2 months now that I've been.
Angela's a long way away from you, isn't she?
Yes, I did get in touch with her, but she recommended you because she said it's a bit outside her comfort zone of advice.
She's more of a trainer than a behaviourist.
Yeah. No, Wilbur will settle on the floor mostly, either near me, in the same room. He wouldn't go off to another room.
So he likes to be near you, but he's not so Velcro attached that he can't go a little bit somewhere away.
No, I mean, he can pootle off to another room. He will start playing, chase the ball around the flat, which it's fine because he's occupied, or he'll just go around sniffing, but he's not completely in the room.
No.
But if he does settle, he will come back to the same room that I'm in. But he wanders off to do his own thing and get a drink and that.
Right. Okay. Right. So when you want to go to bed, presumably you want him to go outside to the yard, do you?
Yes, and he may instigate that first.
So do you just say to him, "Come on, Wilbur, out you go," and does he go willingly?
So I would go pee-pee, which is the signal for. We'd establish with our other dog. He understands it. He's straight at the door, sits down and waits to go out, and then he'll go down to the next door, the communal door, and sit down and wait there till I open it up.
Great. And when he's out, when you want him to come in, he comes in readily, does he?
Yeah, he. He sometimes likes to have a bit of a eat of grass if he can smell a cat, because there is a cat around. All bets are off. Basically, I just have to wait for him to settle down. But no, he's quite good. He doesn't delay too much. He'll toilet fairly on cue.
He comes in when you want him. Then what happens next?
Most of the time, yeah. Bedtime. he is in the bedroom with me, but he has a crate.
Oh, you crate him, okay.
Yeah, he settles better in a crate, I think.
Right.
And he's only 7 kilos, so anything else, he could, I could squash him if he were. So crate and just covered.
Okay, so you then go up to your bedroom, and he goes willingly into his crate, does he?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes he has already plonked onto the bed.
Yes.
But he's quite compliant. He won't put up a fuss about going into the crate. No,
Okay,
he
as long
likes
as
it.
you're in the same room.
Yes, I think. Well, I haven't tried it, but I would imagine, he wouldn't be happy with that.
Okay, so in the morning when you get up, it's straight out of the crate. Is it looking straight out?
Straight out and downstairs for first toilet. Yeah.
Okay, and he's all quite calm at this stage of the day, is he?
Say that again.
He's quite calm at this time of day, is he? Not excitable.
No, he's excitable, but it's manageable for me. I mean, we're letting them out of the crate. They're just pleased to see you, but it's more about, I've learned, getting myself ready before I open the crate, because if I've got to put something on and get my keys and my glasses and everything to go downstairs, if he's around me, that's just not a good recipe. So I get myself ready first, then him out.
That's good. Okay, because I think excitement and arousal is something that you need to keep in check, because the most stable he is, the more you'll be able to work on separation. He's got to feel confident, stable, safe, and so on. It's no good him getting wildly excited, chasing a ball around. You let him out of the crate and he's all wild, and you go, and then you want to look out. It would never work.
Yes,
it's got to be calm.
Yes. Okay. He does get excitable when we're going out for walks, and we go for 3 or 4 a day. Well, some of them are quite short, because
we're going to lead walks to the end, okay? Because what actually happens on the walks doesn't sound as if it's too important, because he sounds so good on. So you come down, you let him outside. What's the next thing that happens in his day?
Breakfast. Okay. Straight up for breakfast.
Right, and then what?
So he might indicate, because it depends on whether he's been for a poo or not first thing, but the breakfast might encourage things along, so we might go down again. It just really depends. But I can sense, or he'll let me know. And then it varies really, because he may sometimes want to have a little bit of play in the living room, or he might settle again, because straight after breakfast sometimes they're full and just want to go.
There's one aspect to look at, and that is the whole role of arousal generally. Okay, which I think is another quite big bit of the jigsaw that we need to put the bits in. And people don't tend to think of when they're dealing with separation. But because we need him stable, what basically happens is every time he gets wildly excited or panicked or anything which is a big emotion, he's going to get a rush of adrenaline, cortisol, and those sort of chemicals in his system. Fight, flight, action. Ooh. And if you think of it like, and they stay in the body, these chemicals, for hours. So think of this like a bucket. Something happens. Maybe when he gets out the crate, he's already excited. So before that's come down, he's rushing downstairs. Maybe get a bit excited for his breakfast. It's like the bucket fills up more quickly than it can drain. And of course, if he hears something and barks at it, that's going to go up quite quickly. If you go out and leave him and he gets in a panic, it's going to overflow. So it's very useful for us to look at things which don't fill the bucket up too much, because the more he's got to play with, the better your separation work is going to work for you. So as we go through, we'll look at anything we can find which keeps him stable. I know it's probably pretty boring, to be honest with you. It's about giving him the bucket draining things, which are things for his brain, for his nose, for his jaws, things like that. Not excited play and running around and chasing him and all that stuff. Do you see? So it's not like don't do anything with him. It's different sorts of things.
Yes.
Because you want him in a stable state. And this thing about feeling safe is really important. Just what I want to do is just ask you 1 or 2 questions about leaving him, and then I'm going to come back to it more afterwards. But the first question is, where do you leave him when you go out?
Well, I don't at the moment. So, I mean, it would only be if I needed to I've got something in the car and I need to bring it up. So I would leave him by the front, well, by the main door in the hallway, and close it. But that's not very often. I mean, sometimes I might just bring him down with me, because rather than let him get in a panic, I can bring whatever it is up myself. So it's rare that I would leave him on his own at the moment, because I haven't started anything. So
your first step, of course, is going to be walking through that door, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, he could probably contain himself maximum for about 10-15 seconds, and then the yelping and whining might start. Yeah, and I can hear it from down the street.
Oh yes. So ideally, when you go out, the place, I always suggest people leave the dog in the place they're happiest.
Right.
There are lots of people, they'll leave the dog in the front hall, for instance, where it can have mail coming in the door and see people go past. They don't feel safe anymore. Or shut them in a crate in the kitchen. Their dog doesn't like being in its crate. It's pointless. You need to find a place that he's happy anyway. So it sounds like possibly your sitting room is the place.
Yes, I think this is the room he spends most time in. Yeah.
Okay. So, and the other slight disadvantage you've got is you've obviously been in a flat. You've only got one door out of it, haven't you? See, because what's I would normally say is, if we're working on that door and say you had an emergency and have to go out, I'd say go out the other door, so you don't actually contaminate the one you've done, if you see what I mean. Okay.
But I have got a door between the living room door and then the front door, so I don't know whether that's pertinent. An internal door, if you like.
What comes out of that? Do your stairs go up? Oh, you don't have stairs, of course, do you?
No, so there's the living room door, and then sort of perpendicular to it is the front door of the flat. So it would be quite close.
You've got no doors leading off that hallway bit?
Oh, there's lots of doors, but it's all internal doors to other rooms.
Yes. Okay. So you've got your sitting room door, and then you've got the door to the stairs.
Yeah,
and in that gap between, you've got other doors leading off it. To
no, that's the first. So come out of the sitting room, then you've got the front door. So to speak,
no
straight
doors.
away.
Yes, no doors there. Okay. So we need to consider which is the best one to shut him when you're doing this work. Which is the best one to shut him behind, the first one or the second one? I think the first one, personally.
Yes, keep him in the living room completely. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, we'll come back to that. I've got a bit of an idea of it. Okay, so the next, oh yes, and the other thing is, when you have left him for a few moments and you come back in again, what reaction do you get?
So he will stop the sort of panicky, or I wouldn't say panics anymore, it's just high anxiety. I've not seen panic like I did when we first got him. That would stop. I'm sensing he's reassured, but then it turns into overexcitement to see me. I completely ignore him.
Yes, you want to be just walk in the kitchen and
do something. I don't make any fuss. Totally ignore him, and wait for him to calm down. And that doesn't take very long.
No.
Because he's not getting any reward for.
No. I would say if you've gone out for a while, it's a bit unnatural to completely ignore. I think.
Oh, this is the very brief. Just gone out.
High Wilbur and walk through. But yes, yes, it really, basically your departures need to be nice and your returns need to be boring.
Yes.
Okay. So at the moment, can you walk around your flat without him following you all the time?
Yes. And it depends what time of day it is. If it's meal time, obviously no. But yeah, I've noticed he's improving with that now. He's less clingy. He can sort of watch me and just be okay that I'm doing whatever. Yeah.
Teaching him to sort of stay is very useful. So if you go through a door and you go backwards, sort of thing, stay.
I haven't done it indoors, but his stay command outdoors, I'd say, is his best one. He's pretty good at staying when I command him to.
He can see you though, can't he?
Yes, it would be in close, a few meters away.
I mean, that's good, so he knows what you mean. I'm just looking at the things which are going to help, because what we need to do is look at the things we need to look at is the environment you leave him in, make that as safe and comfortable in every way as you possibly can. Maybe add something in the way of music or something, or even plugins and smells, maybe those sort of things. And then it's a bit like a ladder. You've got to start at step one. People very seldom start at step one. I would say step one to you would be something like, you've got the inner door, go say to him, stay where he's in the room, almost walk backwards to the end of the door, so you're not turning back your back on him. Go through the door, come back in again and give him a bit of food to stay.
Right.
Get him used to you walk, and when you've done that, it's stay. And now then turn around and walk to the door. Now come back again. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm wrong. What I would say is, in this case, you say stay and you come back. When you start doing it for real, the time he needs the food is when you're leaving, not when you're coming back. Because you need to teach him that to stay away from you is what you want him to do. It's, when you start shutting doors, he needs food. Not until then, okay?
Yeah.
So I would start by going through various doors, making a bit of a game of it, really, telling him to stay when he's not actually, at some time when he just happens not to be right on top of the door, stay. And to start with, walk backwards, because you can keep him staying, all right? Go through the door and come back again, say, okay, whatever, to release him, and that's it.
Yeah.
And do that without shutting doors. I would do it quite regularly on all doors in your flat, and the door to the hall, and even perhaps the door down those stairs. And when he gets really confident, you won't have to say stay after a while, you just put your hand out. And he knows that means he's not going to follow you.
Yes.
Right? So that is the main difficulty, is a dog follows you.
Yes.
Right? Now you're not telling him he's got to stay still until you get back. Not eventually, of course you're not, but you want to get out that door.
Yeah.
So I would say that. Now, when it comes to the time that you're actually going to go through the door and actually shut it on you, I think you ought to start dropping food on the inside of the door. You don't get to come out of his stay for that. You put the food on the floor and you shut the door. So when you go around, say you go to the toilet or something, he doesn't follow you in there. Is that if you go to the toilet, you shut the door on him?
He used to follow me in, but that's lessened, I've noticed recently.
Well, now he knows where you are and he knows for sure you're coming out, so it's not particularly bad for him. So I would start by, with doors like that, carry food around in your pocket, and as you go through the door you can just say to him stay or wait, whichever. You might like to say wait, but wait usually means wait until I come back. Stay means stay until I call you. So you want him to wait and then shut the door. So he gets really used to that. And so when you shut the door, drop a bit of food. So he gets used to doors shut.
Yes, yeah.
Actually earn food. So that would be my second step. So my first step would be, and we'll come back to this and put some more on in it, from what I've learned already, he needs, first of all, to feel very safe where he is. Obviously, being up in a flat, you don't have mail coming banging through the door and stuff, do you?
Oh, no, we do. It's delivered by a postman. Yeah, we have
Have a letterbox.
Yes.
It could be an idea to tape it up and put an outside box there on the landing. Just any box, say mail on it, because you know you've got him already, and then he hears that at the door. It's going to really set him back.
Yeah, I mean, I think the people coming in and out, he barks, but he doesn't bark for long. It might just be one or two, and then he settles quickly.
This is what you need to desensitize him on.
Yeah.
It's desensitizing and, if you like, counter conditioning, the two things. Desensitize is getting used to it at a level he can cope. Counter conditioning is he's been conditioned to be scared, so now we've got to make him happy instead.
Yeah.
Undo that. So I would say, with any little bang you hear, you're going to keep the recording, by the way, so you don't have to worry about notes or anything. Anytime you hear any bang at all, anything, he doesn't have to bark, he might prick up or anything, you immediately go, okay, and chuck him a bit of food.
Yeah.
Okay, food. Any bangs you hear, because if you're consistent, he will start hearing bangs and look to you soon and say, okay, where's my food now? Now you're beginning to get him to feel that bangs aren't so scary.
Yeah.
That would be, I said, the most important thing, really, because if he's jumpy, unless you can make him deaf, you're not going to be able to leave him. He's going to be more jumpy when he hasn't got the safety of being with you.
Yes, yeah.
If you see, so I would work really hard on that. I'd get the outside letterbox. And what happens when the doorbell rings?
It's a buzzer. Same, he would bark. Might go to where the door is and start whining for, whoever it is. But that does settle, and he's very appropriate with then who might be behind the door. So he doesn't.
Not worried about people.
No, he'll wait. He holds back.
I would do the same thing then with the buzzer as any other noise. Immediately tell him, okay, give him a bit of food and go and deal with it. Okay, and if he does get into a big bout of barking, that something really worries him, it's important not to turn him off. You know.
No, yeah.
Because what he's yelling, I'm scared, I'm scared.
Yeah,
Yes,
that doesn't. I mean, I think he's lived on the street, so he's used to a certain level of busyness and stimulation. I think these are just punctuated because it's normally quiet. So then, if the buzzer goes or somebody clatters around, it's
sudden thing.
It's an event, yeah.
Yeah, it's sudden. It is an all-over blanket noise, which is why I think you need to have you need to leave general noise in the room when you start taking them out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say television, because television, there is apparently very high sound in television, isn't there? But we can't hear them, a dog can. They've got much better hearing, so that must be irritating. And you've got also too much of a variety of wakeful things, you know. I think you want something like radio, or if you've got Alexa, ask it to play calm music or something, you know. And so he's got it in the background. Some people put on white noise just so there's something going on, so any sound that does happen isn't sort of such a surprise.
Yeah, he's okay when the windows are open because there'll be louder noises on the street from bin men or whatever. He copes with that all right.
That's because it's continuous, isn't it?
Well, it's not, because the bin men come. It's a dead end, this street, so it's not a thoroughfare. So it is a kind of punctuated event. It's more to do with the door banging, communal staircase, and obviously the intercom. It's that so they're the things I need to work on.
Yes, I think so. In an indirect way, it is to do with separation.
Yeah,
it helps you get the environment.
Yeah, but those things are going to happen when he's here on his own, you know, or not. Yeah.
So before you leave him completely on his own, you need to prepare him for them.
Yeah.
So, but there's lots of things you can do about increasing space between you and him. You know, before you're ready to do that. And the other thing you could leave with him for the environment is a plug-in of some sort.
Yeah, I've got Adaptil.
Yes, and another one called Pet Remedy. Adaptil, you can have collars as well, which sort of perhaps gets it more directly to the dog. I mean, I don't know if they work. That might advise it, but it's not a drug, you know. I don't know if it works, but it's worth a try.
Yeah.
So the first part really is forgetting about leaving him when you go outside, isn't it? It's being able to walk away from him in the house without him minding at all. So you can another game which is quite good fun you could play with him to start with. I think it's called the flitter game. What it means is that you go from room to room with him following you. You go to a room and then you just pretend to do something, you totally ignore him. You're in there for about a quarter of a minute, then you go on to another room and do the same thing, and another room, and another room. And he goes on and on and on. Until most dogs get tired of it when they realize how boring it is. And they hang up.
We've done that inadvertently because I've been sorting out boxes, moving and all the rest of it. And so I've kind of been doing that, and I have noticed he's just got bored and settled. Yes,
it's quite a good one.
Yeah.
Another thing you can do to reinforce the settling is if you have a chew or something in your pocket, when he actually slows down, he looks at it like he's stopping, give him a chew. Because then he's going to be reinforced for staying in one place, and he's already settled. But don't stop doing your flitting immediately. Go on for an hour with him back with the chew. I think there's lots of things you can do about getting him a bit less velcroed in the house, which you have already. I mean, you've done well already, I think. And I imagine if the two of you fell out, you and Mark fell out, I mean, that must have created a bit of an atmosphere which perhaps didn't help him too much.
I think also as well, without going into too much detail, the arrival of Wilbur caused a lot of emotional dysregulation. Which was the cause of all this in the first place anyway, but I kind of thought dogs are very, very in tune with what's going on.
They do. They reflect us. They really do. I mean, excitable people have excitable dogs.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a happy environment all the time, and I think he picked up on that.
Yeah.
I think he attached to Mark, which meant that when Mark went out, I had to deal with panic. Had he have attached to me, that would have also been a problem. So because then there would have been jealousy around that, you know. So we
It
were
is
in a
interesting,
no-win
though.
situation.
It is interesting, though, we're looking at the different sorts of separation. Now, it's not with him. It sounds like it's not being all alone that's the problem. It's because if he was with you and not Mark, that didn't help. So any old person doesn't work. It looks like it needs to be a specific person that he has actually bonded with.
Yeah, so he bonded with my sister because I was staying there for a few months.
Yes.
And because I would have to go to work for a couple of days and stay away, and he was not bothered about me walking out the door. But when my sister would, he would get whiny. But we did find ways to manage it in terms of going out for a walk first and then coming back to the house with the person not there. That worked. There was a little bit of searching going on, but it didn't matter. Settled himself quite well. Or distraction, leave and then come back into the house. I mean, initially it was, where are they? But a walk was a lot better because it was much more distraction. I think was thinking fill his head with stuff. And then 45 minutes later, come back, and then it was almost like, oh, right, okay.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, though, that it tends to be around one person.
Yes.
And so now, as you're living by yourself, you're going to be the most important one person, aren't you?
Yes, although I do know, I mean, you don't think about these things until you, I bought this book, I think it's new out, What Your Dog Wants You to Know or something, I don't know. It's and it's things like don't make arrivals or departures from rooms or them coming into a room a big event, because it's easy to go, oh, you know, all that kind of nonsense that we put on dogs, but just don't do it, because it shouldn't be an event that he just rocks up. And I do try and ignore him a bit more, because he's cocker spaniel and poodle, he's very needy. You know, he's got that in him, so I kind of encourage him to do his own thing a bit more, and he does.
Yes, I mean, it all contributes to not filling that bucket up too much.
Yes.
Because if he's up here already, it takes the smallest thing to send him over. And that would be the difference of him settling sort of semi-quietly for a while and absolutely going bananas.
Yes. I mean, I noticed immediately I took him out of this other property, his behaviour, there was a noticeable difference.
Better or worse?
But for the better. I just think, I also think that some of the issues were slightly fabricated, but nevertheless, that
possibly just picked up on conflict.
Yeah, not him fabricated, but and I just thought, and also we had another dog who was established and quite dominant, which it was a lot for him to deal with, you know, when it came to us. So I do think, I've noticed he absolutely loves playing with other dogs. So I take him out. That's why we go out 4 times a day, because he's really great with other dogs. So, and I noticed that he settles if he's had stimulation. What about enrichment, or, I mean, what?
Yes, that's what, we'll get to that, but we'll do it now if you like. That's what he needs a lot of. But I would say it's things like seeking things, hunting games, foraging for things. Is he a good chewer? Oh,
yes, he's got teeth like razors.
Yeah, you want to give him things, lots of things. Real raw bones, those yak bar chews.
He's got yak bars, yeah.
Coffee wood, have you tried him on that? Coffee wood chew? There's some wood root thing from America or something. Lots of dogs love them. And so you want to do raw bones. He just wants plenty of things to chew. Actually, let's move away from the separation stuff for a minute. We'll come back to that. What do you feed him on?
He gets raw food.
Brilliant. Now, how do you feed him? Just in a bowl twice a day?
No, he gets 3 times a day. The reason being, and it's in a slow feeder, so I spread it around, because he would vomit a sausage back up because he'd bolt it too quickly. So he gets 3 times a day, because twice a day he would vomit bile, so his stomach's empty. So the vet and I would 3 times a day. And
you feed him a little bit at bedtime, do you? You give him a snack or something in his plate?
I have done, and it's that settled. So
because a lot of them do it first thing in the morning because the night time's so long.
6, 12, and 6 is his.
Well, the point is, as much as anything, is how do you feed him? If you feed him, maybe a slow feeder, but because if he's not working for his food, you're missing a bucket drainer or an enrichment thing.
Yeah.
You know, I would say it's raw, so it's wet. You could shove it in a Kong, make him work for it.
Yeah.
You can put him on one of those lick mat things. If you got some, say, freeze-dried food, so that I know it's not as good as raw, but it's the best you can get for dry, you could scatter it over grass or scatter it all over the place, because
Yeah.
you can then work for it.
Yes.
I think that would be very useful.
Yes.
And you know, you also, going back, as I will do every now and then, to the separation things, you need to start building in a ritual so that he knows when you're going to go. So he's all prepared for it. I mean, for instance, what I tend to do, take my dogs for a walk, not a big one, nothing which is going to get them too excited. Then we come back, then I pick up my things, I lock the door, I bring their bed out into the middle of the room. So they know all these little signs and they go and lie on the bed, because I do the same thing each time.
Yeah.
I think once you've really got to work on getting through doors and not shutting them with him staying, and then on to getting through doors and shutting them, I think at that stage you ought to build in the ritual. All right, but it's shutting them and merely coming more or less straight back in again. So don't let him think you're leaving him just yet. Just let him know. So the ritual back then is going to be something he can see, like, has he got a dog bed?
Yes. Yeah.
Move the bed somewhere. Okay. Maybe drop the bit of food on the bed. Okay, which you'll do, and say something like back soon, or you can use your stay. Just go out through the door. By this stage, you'll be able to turn and walk out properly. Shut the door behind you. Just sort of count to 5. Now come back in again and take no notice of him. Right. So now you're building up a bit of a ritual. At some stage, you're going to have to build into it, picking up keys, changing food, all those things. So what I would do is treat those separately. I would do quite a lot of things like picking up keys, the stuff which you do when you're ready to go out, and just do it and then put them back again. Every now and then do that. So he begins to take less notice of that, because you don't want them to be the triggers that you're going.
Yes, yeah.
You want the trigger that you're going ready to be pulling the bed out, putting the food in and so on. Now then, you can add those things, or you could have actually done that quite a bit earlier, so you're ready to go, if you like.
And what sort of intensity would, you know, the initial sort of walking backwards to the door and that, you know, the sort of
dead casual, don't fall over.
No, I mean, I'm sorry, I meant frequency and the amount of doing that.
Yes, I would. The more you do it, the better. The more you do it, the quicker it'll work. But I don't think you want to do it too frequently, because you get him excited. If you see, I mean, you do get up and walk around quite a lot anyway, so you could, in most of those occasions, just get him to stay until you've walked through the door. Now he can follow you, because that's, you know, at the moment, just see if you can get him to hang back and stay where he is instead of always on your heels.
Yeah, I'm just wondering as well, because my sister and brother-in-law are coming today for 24 hours, and I don't know whether this might be an idea. If we started working on the buzzer thing, if somebody was down just pressing the buzzer every now and then, because then I'm just thinking the frequency of that could actually work quite well, could get the ball rolling anyway. Yeah,
what I do, I've had with my dogs, I've got 2 of those doorbells, which are the sping bong sort of, you know, they're radio bells with 2 buzzers. One's outside and I keep the other one indoors, and I just keep ringing the thing, ring it, chuck food, ring it, chuck food, ring it, chuck food. And soon the dog gets so immune to it.
That's what I was thinking.
Yes, but you need to reproduce the sound of that buzzer, because just once occasionally isn't enough.
So I think if my sister could be at the button in downstairs and just keep buzzing it every 30 seconds or so, and then I can just feed, you know, give him some. But
it would need to be done over a period of a week or 2, I think.
Right, but yeah, I mean, we could.
But you could make a start. Is it a sound? That buzzer? Is it it leads to your?
It's a buzz, but it's you can't hear it to other flats. You can hear a slight noise, but yeah, when it's a zzz, you know.
You'd find it much easier to just take it away and put one of those little radio doorbells on.
I can't. It's an intercom to let people through the front door,
Oh,
like a
okay.
handset with a button
Right.
to press people. So, and it's all
I
wired.
wonder if you can imitate the sound on
I probably could find an MP4 of it, yeah, or something,
or
or I
maybe
could
you
take a
record
voice
it on your
recording.
phone. It won't be quite the same thing, but you could perhaps doing an awful lot of buzzes is the answer.
Yeah, I've got
Buzz,
speakers.
buzz
I could
for-
make it a bit louder. Yeah, that would. Yeah, try that.
Yeah, because then it'll get him very used to it. And so if you're
Yeah.
out with buzzes, he's not going to go into even a wildly excited state thinking somebody's coming, because you can't. Wildly excited isn't conducive of being calmly waiting for you to come back.
Yes, yeah.
These bottom steps really are the ones, and some of it's guesswork, so you might have to tweak it or get in touch with me and we'll alter it a little bit, but this is how I see it from what you've told me so far.
Yes.
So we need to get you be able to walk around the flat with him, not automatically following you. Leave the door open to start with, but get him to hang back to begin with. You're coming back in him, or just carry on out and he catches up with that, fine. Teaching him to stay, if you actually want him to stay, it means that you come back and then you reward him for staying, so you release him. But of course, eventually, all you want him to do is to stay, to hang back, to allow you through the door.
Yes.
So the thing to do, I think, is really when you do your proper practice, not just wandering around the house, is to actually start getting him to stay in his bed for food. So one of your triggers that you're going to go out the door is him seeing a bit of food drop on his bed. So he goes to his bed, you tell him to stay, you walk out the door and shut it.
Yes.
Then you come back nearly straight away, don't take much notice of him really. Go and do something else. And then, maybe 5 minutes later or an hour later, do it again. I would say do it fairly randomly. But then when you start doing it for real, want to go out for longer, you want to build in a better sequence. So first of all, he really needs to have been outside. He needs to have a walk, or not too long a walk. Yes, he needs to have the various things done. So he knows for absolute sure you're going out. And then what I like about moving the bed is it's a visual signal that you're out. So if, say, he does go to sleep and wake up and says, oh, heck, am I all alone? He'll know whether you're in or not because he can see where the bed is.
Yes, yeah.
So you're not sort of sneaking out on him.
And when that eventually comes, do you recommend leaving them in the one room that they feel safest, but they can't depart from that?
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. I don't think you want to leave him as sort of almost guard duty of the whole place. You want him the place he likes best, feeling safe. Something you said then made me think of something. I'll come back. Right, so if somebody comes to the house, he's just very, very friendly.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I have to remember what it was. You coming back. Yeah, so we don't have to worry about visitors. The only thing about that we're worried about is not getting too wildly excited with the doorbell.
Yes, yeah.
Does he bark very much?
No.
And has he ever? Is that just this new place, or he's always been like that?
He barks when the doorbell, the buzzer goes, or slamming of the door downstairs, or if people are loud coming up the communal staircase.
And that's what you immediately tell him, okay, and deal with it. Okay.
Yeah, but he's not extended barking. It's in the moment, and then it passes. He doesn't bark at other dogs or people. He met a friend last week, and he said, "Oh, yeah. Does he bark?" And I said, yes, but not very often, so he doesn't bark at the dogs on the other side of the street, for example. He would never do that. The
things he hears, like doors slamming and people in that, so even if he doesn't bark, he's going to alert, isn't he? And even if you hear them and he doesn't respond, I still think you ought to say, okay.
There's sometimes a window between him getting up and ears up a bit, and then he starts barking. So there is an opportunity at times.
That's a good time to do it.
Yeah.
Even if he's barking, it doesn't mean to say don't feed him.
Yeah.
Because you're not reinforcing barking. Actually, it's nothing to do with barking. It's about the emotion, the alarm that's causing the barking. So you're dealing with that. So, if he's barking, it doesn't mean to say you shouldn't still worry about the alarm. So I wouldn't worry about food reinforcing barking. It'd be different if you were teaching him to bark like as a trick.
Yes.
Then you reward him for it. But as you're not actually dealing with the barking, you're dealing with what's inside him causing the barking. Everybody gets very confused about that. Let me look on my list. What about things you do to play with him? What do you do?
So he likes playing with tennis balls. So if we go out, we'll sometimes take one of them. He likes to socialize with other dogs and chase around with them if they're up for it, but it's not, it's just sort of localized. He likes to play a little bit of tug of war with a rope thing that I've got. And he can self-direct quite a lot. He can sort of find one of his toys. They're not strewn around, or or one of his yak chews, and he'll start, rolling it around the floor himself. Sometimes I will join in, or sometimes I'll ignore him. I'll join in if it gets stuck under furniture, because then he'll want me to sort it out. So.
Then it's a nice game, that, getting it under the furniture to get you.
Yeah, I'll just roll it around somewhere else, and because I mean it's Edinburgh, you can't always go out because it does rain, so we have to play indoors.
I would say when you go out, I would strongly advise you not to take a ball.
Right.
Because all you're doing is wiring him up for no reason at all. Because if you think real life, what do? They run off and chase something, maybe catch it, maybe not, and that's it. They're not doing this repetitive thing, and it almost makes them an addict. But if you take him out and do a lot of ball play, he's going to come back higher than when he went. So if you've got, while you're working on separation things, and especially if you're going to go out for real, I would make sure that the walk you take him for before you go is as near as you can to a mooch and a sniff and an explore, maybe the odd play with another dog, but keep it not too much. Otherwise, he's not going to be settled. He won't settle.
Yeah.
One very good thing is scatter feeding over grass, which is hard with raw food, but it would be worthwhile, perhaps just for things like that, getting the very best dry that you could. And I would say that freeze dried is probably the nearest you're going to get, just because you can scatter it in the grass, and he's then got to have all the sense of nature and all the rest of it to sniff it out. I know you haven't got grass in your yard though.
Well, there is. It's overgrown slightly, so there is opportunity for him to do that. I mean, there's a lot of snails though, so I'm a bit wary of that. But I could do it.
Yeah. I mean, I found my dogs don't eat the snails. They're not.
Yeah, I don't think he's interested. But there's a park 30 seconds around the corner.
Yeah, do it there then.
I could do it there.
Just anything to get his in the best state of mind that you possibly can. When you, I know what it's come back to me. Thank goodness for that. Have you got a camera?
I've got. You mean like a security camera kind of thing?
No, so you can spy on him.
Oh yeah, I've got a camera that's records, and then I can see through an app remotely. Yes, I can. I can do it in real time, or I can see. Yeah,
because what you want when you start going out and down those stairs, you want to gauge it that you're coming back before he gets distressed.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've got I can do that. Yeah.
That's quite important. You don't want him to feel that his distress gets you back. So that I think the biggest step forward you're going to get is from shutting doors, and when you wander around the house, is going to be actually going down those stairs.
Yeah.
You've got one door to shut, and then he's going to hear the second door shutting. Okay, which will be enough for one day. Once you got to about step 5, that's the next thing. So he hears both doors shutting. Then, he's on his bed, he's got all the signs there, you have your front door, you asked him to stay or back soon, or whatever your words are. Then you're going out through the hallway. Now you're onto the second door. He's going to hear that open and shut. Now you're going to come back through all those. And carry on doing that until he's really happy with it. He might not eat the thing you leave for him in his bed. Sometimes they won't if they're worried. But then the next thing is to carry on going down the stairs and keep, bring it longer and longer and longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
he was able to be distracted fairly successfully in the early days. It was only briefly that his panic just got so high after a couple of hours that he couldn't tolerate any distraction. That didn't last that long.
Distraction doesn't help, does it? Distraction doesn't solve the situation.
Yeah.
you know, all it does is buy you a bit of time, I suppose,
Mm.
manages it, but he's got to face it in order to feel okay with it, hasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he has shown, I mean, from 6 months ago to where he is now, he's a different dog.
Yeah.
So I think we'll be able to gain some success.
I'm sure you will. The whole thing about this ladder is to keep one step at a time. If you get sad and he suddenly gets unhappy, you go back a step or two.
Yes.
Then what often happens, you get a big surge, you know, and you jump ahead a bit because you can't tell how it's going to go.
Yeah.
It's just a question of being consistent and not leaving him. It means you're a prisoner, really, unless you take him with you.
No, and I think because I've taken this time off, I can do it a lot, and I think doing it a lot over the following day, every single day, it's going to help him rather than just doing it intermittently.
I think so. And different things do automatically now sometimes shut doors on him anyway, and as you do, drop a bit of food.
Yeah.
So shutting the door is, yeah.
I had to shut him in the bedroom for a couple of hours because there was a contractor person working here, and he wasn't happy, but he coped with it. And his whining was intermittent; it wasn't continuous.
I would suggest it's because he feels safe in the bedroom.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it would almost, if the other thing really doesn't work, it might be worthwhile putting him in the crate in the bedroom when you go out.
I could try to see which. I mean, I would say there's the 2 rooms that he obviously spends the most time in.
And he seems to be okay in the crate, but I would resist it. I wouldn't use the crate unless
I don't want it to become associated with anxiety because he likes going in at bedtime. So I think I'll keep that for the time being, and then he just seems to be
last resort. Yeah. No, but does he have a bed in the crate?
It's like, it's a soft.
Maybe that would be the thing to bring down when you go out.
Yeah.
And teach him to lie on there, sit on there, rather than his other bed. Maybe that'll be the visual signal, because he's already associates that bed with settling.
Yes.
Yeah. Settling and being quite happy and feeling safe. So you might actually find that's quite a good thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Let's see what else we've got. We'll just do a little recap in a minute when I'm finished. He's never shown aggression, has he?
A couple of times resource guarding
with the other dog, though, not with you.
With another dog, yeah. So we are the resource usually, or space on the sofa, but it's only happened about 2 or 3 times. More in the initial stages of moving in, and yeah,
do that. I mean, in a way, that's a dog thing, isn't it? You don't want somebody nicking your mobile phone, you know.
Yes, yeah, we all do it. So it's just yeah.
But he doesn't guard things from you.
No. I mean, he'll get hold of the ball and want me to chase him around, but that's fun. He's not. No, not at all. No, I could pull his food up midway and he wouldn't bark.
You wouldn't, would you? But it's point.
No, but if he knows that.
No, that's it. That he doesn't do what I call resource guarding. I would say that is just conflict with another dog. Yes, it's probably a bit of jealousy, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose he my sister's dog, who's coming down today, they get on really well, but when they're playing, Wilbur will do a little bit of short growling to get hold of the toy or the ball or that, but it's not. There's no aggression.
That's play. That's probably even play fighting, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes they bare their teeth at each other when they're getting a bit fed up with each other, but there's no aggression.
But I mean, that's like, it's the signal they'd use to another dog. Okay, I've had enough now.
Yes,
you shouldn't want to do that. It doesn't sound bad at all to me.
No, and he will take his cue from another dog. Like a Chihuahua last night was just yapping at him and sort of almost getting at his nose, and he just walked away. He can respond appropriately.
Can your sister's dog be left alone?
Yes.
How about this, just for a brief experiment? See if the 2 dogs, see if he's okay left alone with another dog rather than a human.
Because I was living in my sister's house, and he was okay, and he didn't know I was in the house. He thought he'd been left. So I just waited for a while, and it was a bit of sort of gentle howling, almost like he was singing a song, and then it just settled. So he didn't
He
like
probably
it.
wasn't
He
very happy,
tolerated
but
it.
howling is calling your pack, isn't it? And noise.
Yeah, but it wasn't like when we
Not a
first
panic,
got
no.
him, panic howl. It was just sort of like, oh, I've been left on my own, kind of a
I'm
bit of
left
a
out.
moan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So interestingly, another dog might help, but not that I'm suggesting get another dog, of course.
Yeah. 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 I mean, we could try it though. We could all sort of walk down the stairs and see what happens when we walk out, just to see what he does, because he knows Dennis, so he'll be okay.
Well, you won't be able to make much of a start with your stuff in the next 24 hours because you've got.
No, this is going to be Sunday onwards,
yes,
when my visitors
so,
have gone. But yeah,
that sort of thing. Yeah. Right.
I mean, it sounds plenty to be getting on with, because I mean, although each step is quite simple, there's you have to do it a lot.
You do. And you really have to take it step by step. And we want to do a little recap in a minute. Just this, the last thing, which we haven't looked at, is walks, which we really don't have to. But just out of interest, do you have a harness or a lead for him?
Harness.
Collar.
Well, he has a collar on all the time anyway with his tag, but no, I put a harness on, and then the lead at the back, on his shoulders, and kind of thing. I don't put a lead on to his collar.
Right. Well, I think let's look back at the whole separation thing. He's got to know what you're going to do, and he's got to feel happy about it. We want him in a space where he's safe, he feels safe and happy, and to achieve that you need to looking at the things which make him feel unsafe, which are probably these random noises and maybe the door buzzer, and counter condition him on that lot. Really get every little one, drop him a bit of food. All right. You might be worth your while having freeze-dried food, because at least you're nourishing him. You're not just feeding him rubbish treats. And you don't really want to carry chicken or cheese around in your pocket all the time, do you? It sounds like he's a good eater, is he?
Yeah.
You want something he really likes.
He loves bone. So I could get some beef or lamb bones from a butcher.
Well, that'd be good to have him just to sit and chew. But I'm thinking of when, as soon as you hear a noise, you want to say, okay, and give him some food quick. So every time there is a noise, okay, it perks up, or even if it doesn't. So he begins to welcome noises.
Yeah.
To the extent that he hears a noise and looks at you, okay, I need food now.
Yeah.
Don't worry about feeding him too much. What you want is, we're looking at his state of mind. You can worry all about that later. So that's what the first thing is, getting the environment as good as you can.
Yeah.
And around the house, deal with the things that frighten him. I would say, if you possibly can, put an outside letterbox. We really don't want stuff coming through the door.
Yeah.
That'd be the first thing. So, and then get him just used to that while you walk around the house, and the next step will be for you to get him to stay when you walk through the door. And you probably, the only way you're going to do it to start with, I suspect, is if you walk backwards. Okay, because he'll sort of release himself, So you experiment with it. It might be walk backwards and then come back to him. Okay. Or you could you could walk backwards and then reward him when you come back. You want to get him just not to follow to the door. You also want the bed on the floor, so you can do the same thing there, drop the food on the bed, they stay. And then once you can get out backwards, turn around and do it, then turn around and come straight back. Don't expect her to stay on the bed, though. I think. No. I mean, a lot of people would expect them to stay there until you got bad at them. So I think just enough for you to get to the door, and then he can do what he likes, really. I
mean, if I put the bed at one sort of side of the room, and I was able to walk backwards and get to the door without him moving, that would be a big achievement.
That would be very good. And you need to use hand signals. It's surprising how much you really know what you're doing.
He's good with that. He understands that already. Yeah. So good. I think we might have some success with that, but it's then when we start making it a bit more complex around another door and leaving.
Well, when you're going backwards, if you've got a long space in the room, after a couple of days of that, you could start turning around halfway through the room and walking to the
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if he's come off his bed. You just want him to think that the food goes on the bed, that's where he's going to go, whether he stays there or not.
Yeah, I think from other training and exercises that have happened. He's a very fast learner. I mean, I actually think he'd be good at agility classes, but that's way down the line yet if I've decided to, because he does pick up things very, very quickly, and he's very nimble. So I think that initial thing will.
What he'd do brilliantly at is scent work.
Yeah.
Now I've got.
I've done some of that before. I've done some. Angela said, hunting for food. We did quite a bit of that.
As one food game I'm going to tell you about before we finish, but just before that, let's just get to the end of the recap. So now you are at a stage where you can get through the second door, the stair door, and shut it. And everything's fine. So you need to now increase time and increase distance, but keep an eye on that phone so that you come back again before
Yes.
And I would also say when you get to a stage of being about a minute or two, that's when to leave him something more.
Right, yeah, something to chew on.
That's when to leave him the Kong or the chew or whatever it is going to leave him. Because while he's chewing that, he'll be okay. You're not distracting him, but you're actually pairing your departure with something he likes, and it helps calm him. And build it up with duration and the camera and see how it goes. A lot of cases, it's like you suddenly get a breakthrough. It's like the dog thinks, oh, it's all right, then I don't mind anymore. And you can sort of do that.
Yes.
What I was just going to finish with just a little game to get him liking doors shut. Do this as a cheese game, and always use 3 bits of grated cheese. You want him to count to 3, to learn to count to 3. So you shut him behind a door. Okay, so if behind you the door's shut, and put 3 bits of grated cheese on the floor near the door. Open the door, go find, now he can't miss them. Go out the door, shut him out again, shut the door, and do it again, only the cheese a bit further away.
Yes, yeah.
Now, each time you shut him out, make it more difficult until he's going to have to look under things, on things, behind things, and perhaps eventually all over the flat, just because he'll know when he's found them all.
Well, I suppose that's associating closed doors with fun.
It will do that, and it's a very good bucket drainer because he's going to have to use his brain.
Yeah.
Eventually, and he's going to know when to stop looking because it's going to be 3. So you can hide them all over the place. And that is a really good sort of game for him.
Yes.
It does mean, well, in a way, you could do it with various doors.
Here he is.
Get him used to, isn't he lovely? Look at that.
He's been down all the time, but he just wants a bit of attention now. So
why not?
Yes, yeah.
I'm not. I share my bed with my dogs. Yeah.
I like the sound of that game. That sounds like.
If it, as I say, once you've got good at it one door, do it with another door.
Yes, yeah.
Right, I think that'll do.
Plenty for me to get on with. Yeah. Will you send this as a video file?
I'm just going to